An animal does not pretend to be what it is not. It does not rehearse its roar or practice its flight. It simply is. Fully, completely, without apology. And yet, there are animals that call to you. Not because you want to be them, but because they reflect something you already are, but have forgotten how to express. Today, we invite you to feel, not to think, not to analyze, but to notice which animal recognizes you before you recognize it, before you are for animals. The lion, the butterfly, the wolf, and the owl. Do not choose based on which one you admire. Do not select the one that sounds most spiritual or impressive. Do not think about what others might say about your choice. Instead, breathe. Close your eyes if you need to, and simply feel which animal lives in your chest, which one moves through your dreams, which one has been walking beside you, waiting for you to finally turn and look. Alan Watts once said that you are not a puppet controlled by the universe, you are the universe. So choose the animal that is already you. Your choice is made. Now, let us see what it reveals about the nature you have been carrying all along. If the lion called to you, you carry a presence that cannot be ignored. You do not demand attention. You do not perform dominance. You simply are. And that isness, that unwavering certainty of your own existence, creates a gravity that others feel before you speak. You walk into rooms, and the energy shifts. Not because you are loud, not because you are aggressive, but because you are awake. This is your nature. You have learned that true power is not about controlling others. It is about being so fully yourself that others remember they, too, have permission to be real. You lead not by force, but by presence. By refusing to dim your light so others feel comfortable in their darkness, you understand something most never learn, that the greatest act of courage is not fighting battles. It is being authentic in a world of masks. You do not pretend. You do not perform. You do not twist yourself into shapes that fit someone else's expectations. You are the lion majestic, not because you try to be, but because you have stopped trying to be anything other than what you are. People are drawn to your certainty, your groundedness, your refusal to apologize for taking up space. You remind them that strength is not about overpowering, it's about being so rooted in your truth that nothing can move you from your center. But the lion carries a shadow that hides in plain sight. Because when you are always the strong one, you forget how to be vulnerable. When you are always the leader, you forget how to follow. When you are always awake, you forget how to rest. Your presence becomes your prison. Your power becomes your burden. You have learned to carry everything alone because you believe that to need help is to be weak, that to show uncertainty is to lose authority, that to rest is to abandon your post. And so you stand, always standing, holding the weight of your own majesty until your legs tremble beneath you, and no one notices because you have taught them not to look. The lion's roar is powerful, but silence, for the lion, is terrifying. Because in the silence, you are just another animal, just another creature trying to survive, and you have built your entire identity on being more than that. Watts would ask you this: who told you that presence requires performance? That power means you can never be powerless? That consciousness means you must always be the one who is awake? Watts taught that the ego is not something to be destroyed, but recognized as a role you are playing. The lion has taught you how to be present, how to stand in your power without apology. But what it is teaching you now is that true strength includes softness, that real leadership includes followership, that conscious power does not mean you are never confused, never tired, never in need. You are learning this, that the most powerful thing you can do is allow yourself to be seen in your fullness. Not just the raw, but the rest. Not just the presence, but the vulnerability. Not just the lion, but the being inside the lion, who sometimes does not know what to do. The lion sleeps 20 hours a day, not because it is weak, but because it understands that power is not about constant display. It is about knowing when to move and when to be still, when to roar and when to remain silent, when to lead and when to simply exist. This is your teaching, that you do not need to prove your strength to keep it, that your presence does not disappear when you allow yourself to rest, that the most conscious thing you can do is recognize that you, too, are allowed to be human. If you chose the lion, you know what it means to stand in your truth. You do not need to roar louder to be heard. You only need to trust that your presence is enough, even in the silence. Your true self is not the power. It is the awareness that can hold power and powerlessness without being threatened by either. And when you finally allow yourself to be both the lion and the lamb, you will discover that you were never proving your strength to others. You were only trying to prove it to yourself. If the butterfly called to you, you understand that to live is to constantly die and be reborn. You do not cling to who you were yesterday. You do not mourn the versions of yourself you have outgrown. You know that transformation is not something that happens once, it is the nature of existence itself. You are always becoming, always unfolding, always in the process of letting go of one form to discover another. This is your wisdom. You have learned what most resists their entire lives, that impermanence is not a tragedy. It is the only way anything beautiful can exist. The flower that never wilts, never blooms. The butterfly that never leaves, the cocoon never flies. You move through life with a lightness others cannot understand. Not because you are careless, but because you are not attached. You love deeply without clinging. You create passionately without needing permanence. You experience fully without demanding that any experience last forever. People are inspired by your capacity to change, to reinvent, to shed old skin and emerge as something new, without apology or explanation. You give them permission to stop holding on to versions of themselves that no longer fit. But the butterfly carries a cost that is easy to miss. Because when nothing is permanent, nothing feels real. When you are always transforming, you never fully arrive. You flutter from flower to flower, experience to experience, identity to identity. And somewhere in the constant movement, you lose track of what remains. You tell yourself you are flowing with life, but what you are really doing is running from commitment, from depth, from the uncomfortable truth that transformation without integration is just another form of escape. You leave relationships before they deepen because depth requires staying. You abandon projects before they mature because maturity requires patience. You reinvent yourself before anyone can truly know you because being known requires stillness. And stillness, for the butterfly, feels like death. Watts would remind you that the wave is always changing, but the ocean remains. That form is impermanent, but the essence beneath the form is eternal. And you, in your rush to transcend every form, have forgotten to notice the essence. Watts once said that the menu is not the meal, but you also cannot eat without choosing something from the menu. The butterfly has taught you how to let go, how to transform, how to move through life without attachment. But what it is teaching you now is that transcendence is not about never landing. It is about being present, even in the temporary, even in the finite, even in the form that will one day dissolve. You are learning this, that true freedom is not about escaping limitation. It is about being fully present within limitation. That real transformation is not about constantly becoming something new. It is about fully being what you are right now, knowing that this moment too will pass. The butterfly lives only a few weeks, and in those weeks it does not spend its time wishing it was something else, or mourning that it will soon be gone. It simply flies, it feeds, it mates. It exists fully in the shortness of its existence. This is your teaching, that you do not need to transcend this moment to be free. You are free when you finally stop running from the temporary, and allow yourself to fully inhabit it, to land, to stay, to be here, even knowing that here will not last forever. If you chose the butterfly, you know that transformation is the only constant. You do not need to stop changing to matter. You only need to remember that change is most beautiful when you are fully present to each stage, not rushing to the next one. Your true self is not the transformation. It is the awareness that remains constant through every change. The stillness that watches every form arise and dissolve. And when you finally allow yourself to land not forever, but fully, you will discover that you were never trapped by permanence. You were only afraid that if you stopped moving, you would disappear. But you cannot disappear. You can only change form. And you have been doing that all along. If the wolf called to you, You walk alone, not because you are lonely, but because the path you are on cannot be found on any map. You are guided by something internal, instinctual, a knowing that does not come from books or teachers, but from somewhere deeper than thought. You do not follow the crowd, because the crowd is following signs, and you are following a scent only you can smell. This is your power. You trust your intuition even when it makes no logical sense. You make choices that others question, and you do not need to explain them because you know they are right in a way that cannot be justified. You are connected to a wisdom that predates language, a truth that lives in the body, in the gut, in the bones. People misunderstand your solitude. They think you are isolating, withdrawing, running away, but you are not running from anything. You are running towards something, and that something can only be found in the territory beyond the village, beyond the noise, beyond the well-worn paths everyone else is walking. You are the wolf, belonging to the pack when it serves you, but never forgetting that your deepest loyalty is to the wildness inside you that refuses to be domesticated. But the wolf carries a loneliness that most do not see, because when you walk alone, you are always alone. When you trust only your own instinct, you have no one to confirm that you are not just lost. When you refuse to follow the path, you are also refusing the community that walks it. You tell yourself you are free, that you do not need others, that the solitude is a choice, not a consequence. But deep down, you wonder if you have become so comfortable in the wilderness that you have forgotten how to return to the village. If you have become so good at surviving alone that you no longer know how to belong. The wolf within you howls, and the sound echoes back empty. Not because there are no other wolves, but because you have gone so far into your own territory that you can no longer hear them. And you are proud of this distance, and you are devastated by it, and you do not know how to reconcile the two. Watts would ask you, is solitude a choice, or is it a defense? Are you seeking truth, or are you seeking safety from the vulnerability of being known? Watts taught that the individual and the universe are not separate. They are two ends of the same thing. The wolf has taught you how to trust yourself, how to walk your own path, how to survive in the wilderness of your own becoming. But what it is teaching you now is that the deepest truths are not found in isolation. They are found in the recognition that you are not separate from the pack. You are the pack, experiencing itself through the illusion of individuality. You are learning this, that true freedom is not about refusing all connection. It is about choosing connection consciously. That real strength is not about surviving alone, it is about knowing you can survive alone and choosing to walk with others anyway. The wolf is a pack animal. It hunts alone sometimes, but it returns. It howls not just to mark territory, but to locate the others, to say, I am here, where are you? It knows that the lone wolf, despite the mythology, rarely survives. This is your teaching, that you do not need to abandon your wildness to belong. You only need to trust that there are others who are wild in the same way, who walk their own paths but do not mind if those paths converge sometimes, who understand that true companionship is not about walking the same road, it is about respecting that each of you has a different scent too. Follow. If you chose the wolf, you know what it means to trust your own knowing. You do not need to justify your path to anyone. You only need to stop confusing solitude with separation. You are not alone. You have only convinced yourself that being different means being disconnected. Your true self is not the lone wolf. It is the awareness that can walk alone and walk together without losing itself in either. And when you finally allow yourself to howl not to claim territory, but to find the others, you will discover that the wilderness you thought was yours alone is full of voices, and they have been calling back all along. If the owl called to you, you see what others overlook. You do not need the daylight. You do not need the noise. You move in the hours when most are sleeping, and in that silence you perceive things that are invisible in the bright bustle of ordinary life. You are the observer in the darkness, the one who watches without being seen, the one who understands without needing to speak. This is your nature. You carry a knowing that is not learned but remembered, a wisdom that does not come from accumulating information, but from paying attention to what is already present. You see patterns. You hear what is not being said. You sense the undercurrents that move beneath every conversation, every situation, every moment. People come to you when they need clarity, when they need someone who will not react, but reflect. You do not offer advice unless it is asked for. You do not impose your understanding. You simply hold space for truth to reveal itself, and in that space, others find what they were looking for. You are the owl, silent, patient, present. You do not chase understanding. You wait for understanding to land. But the owl carries a burden that lives in the shadows. Because when you see too much, you can lose the ability to simply be. When you are always observing, you are never participating. You watch life from a distance, convinced that your perspective is valuable, never realizing that perspective is not the same as presence. You have become so comfortable in the darkness that you have forgotten how to be seen in the light. So skilled at understanding others that you have forgotten how to be understood. You analyze, you observe, you reflect, but you do not reveal. You hold everyone else's truth, but you keep your own hidden. And here is the cost. You become the keeper of everyone's secrets, and no one knows yours. You become the wise one, the insightful one, the one people turn to but no one asks if you need turning to. Because you have trained them not to. Because you have made yourself into the observer, and observers do not need help, they are above the fray. Beyond the mess, watching from the branches while life happens below. Watts would ask you, who is watching the watcher? Who holds space for the one who holds all the space? Watts once said that the world is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. The owl has taught you how to see clearly, how to observe without distortion, how to hold wisdom without wielding it as a weapon. But what it is teaching you now is that understanding is not the same as living, that clarity is not a substitute for connection, that wisdom without vulnerability is just another form of hiding. You are learning this, that to truly see, you must also allow yourself to be seen, that the observer must occasionally step down from the tree and join the life unfolding on the ground, that your insights are valuable, but your presence is irreplaceable. The owl does not only watch, it also hunts, it engages, it participates in the ecosystem, not as a distant observer, but as an active part of the living web. And its wisdom comes not from distance, but from being embedded in the world it seeks to understand. This is your teaching, that you do not need to abandon your clarity to be human. You only need to remember that you are not separate from what you are observing. You are part of it, and your wisdom is most powerful when it includes your own messy, imperfect, beautifully human experience. If you chose the owl, you know what it means to see in the dark. You do not need to explain your knowing to be wise. You only need to remember that wisdom without presence is incomplete. That the most profound understanding comes not from watching life, but from living it. Your true self is not the observer. It is the awareness that can observe and participate simultaneously, that can see clearly and be seen fully. And when you finally allow yourself to step into the light, not to perform wisdom, but to simply be, will discover that you were never above the life you were watching. You were always part of it, and your wisdom is most valuable when it is offered from within, not from above. Animals do not question their nature. The lion does not wonder if it should be more like the butterfly. The butterfly does not envy the wolf's solitude. The wolf does not wish it could see like the owl. Each moves through the world as it is, without apology, without comparison. Carl Jung understood that the animals we are drawn to reveal the aspects of ourselves we are learning to integrate. The lion teaching presence to those who hide. The butterfly teaching flow to those who cling. The wolf teaching trust to those who follow. The owl teaching participation to those who only observe. But Alan Watts would say this: you are not the lion or the butterfly or the wolf or the owl. You are the awareness that can take any form. The consciousness that moves through all animals, all beings, all expressions of life. The animal you chose is not who you are. It is who you are becoming. What you are learning, what you are integrating in this moment of your unfolding. The test was never about which animal you chose. It was about recognizing that you contain all of them. That you are not one nature, but nature itself. exploring what it is like to be conscious through the temporary form called you. So what now? Perhaps you recognized yourself in the animal you chose. Perhaps you saw qualities you admire and qualities you fear. Perhaps you felt uncomfortable because the animal revealed something you have been trying to hide. All of this is the unfolding, because you are not here to find a fixed identity. You are here to notice what is emerging, what is integrating, what is ready to be seen, and what is still learning how to reveal itself. Today you felt connected to one animal. Tomorrow you may feel drawn to another. Not because you were confused, but because you are growing. Because the lion learns to rest, because the butterfly learns to land, because the wolf learns to return, because the owl learns to be seen. Do not make the animal your new label. Do not use it as another story to explain yourself. Let it show you something about where you are, and then let it go. Because the truth is, you are not the lion, not the butterfly, not the wolf, not the owl. You are the life force that moves through all of them. The awareness that can be powerful and transforming and solitary and wise without being limited to any single expression. And that awareness, infinite and ever-changing, is the only self you need to know. Alan Watts once said, "You are a function of what the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is a function of what the whole ocean is doing." Today, you felt connected to an animal, but the connection was not the point. The point was to remember that you are not separate from nature. You are not a consciousness trapped in a human body, envying the freedom of animals. You are nature waking up to itself, expressing itself through temporary forms, learning what it is like to be conscious through the particular lens called you. The animal revealed something about how you are currently expressing, but it cannot define what you are, because what you are is indefinable. So be the lion, be the butterfly, be the wolf, be the owl. But never forget, you are not the animal. You are the life that makes all animals possible. And that life has been here since the beginning, and will remain long after every form returns to the earth. If something in this reflection called to you, if you recognized yourself in the animal you felt connected to, we invite you to share it in the comments below. Not to explain, not to justify, but simply to acknowledge what you saw. To witness and be witnessed by others who are also learning to see their nature clearly. Each comment is a howl in the darkness. Each share is a recognition across distance. And together, we create the forest where all of us are learning to be both wild and conscious. There are more reflections waiting, more symbols, more invitations to remember that you are not a small, separate self. You are the entire web of life, experiencing itself through one beautiful, temporary form. Stay, not because you need to, but because something in you recognizes this as home. And until we meet again, remember this: you are not the animal. You are the awareness that makes all animals possible. The consciousness that can take any form without being limited to any form. And that consciousness is not something you have. It is what you are. See you in the next reflection.